Okay, we're starting the recording now. And good morning, good day, wherever you are. We hope you're having a really good one today. I'm Rick Zanotti, and here we are. This is eLearnChat. I think it's episode number 74 or 75. I never checked before the show. Anyway, joining me today is Dawn Mahoney. Hey, Dawn, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. I'm glad everybody's here watching us.
Yeah, that's great. And Dawn, you are now at the Presentation Summit in Arizona, correct?
Yes, in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. I've never been to Scottsdale before. It's nice.
It's a little
Going
suburb.
home tomorrow.
Little suburb of Phoenix, right?
Yes, where ASU is just up the road.
Okay, that sounds great. And
A little college town.
joining us today is well, I'm not sure what his official title is, but he is the master of ZebraZapps. And I'll call you the product manager, vice president, whatever you want to be called. But we've got Christopher Allen with us today. And Chris, this is his second visit on the show. And Chris, how are you today?
Good morning. Happy
Chris.
to be back and sharing Zebra with everybody and talking more about e-learning and what it is that we have to offer.
That's pretty good. Well, just in the pre-show, we just learned that Chris does triathlons, which makes him an Ironman. This is pretty cool. So you actually run with the zebras.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
You could.
We don't have too many zebras in Minnesota, so
That's right. Well, at the zoo,
we'll
that'd
just
be
assume that I could.
I wore leopard print just for you today, but because I didn't have anything zebra along.
Yeah, that's great. Well, for all of those of you who are out there who haven't yet played with ZebraZapps or know about it, it is a really powerful authoring tool. It's actually quite unique. I'd say it's probably the only authoring tool that can do what it does currently, and probably for quite a while. I don't think anybody's doing anything close to what ZebraZapps does. It is truly a state machine, and in so many ways you can do very complex simulations as well as e-learning without really having to do any coding. You just have to know how to use panels, and I think that was brilliant. That's and again, especially for simulations, the way you guys do the state machine type thing and the wiring is really fascinating. And if you have any kind of programming background, you've probably seen something similar in terms of you have inputs and outputs into your objects, which is the old wiring interface that we used to do on things like Visual Basic and C++. Really, really kind of neat.
Lily Leva from Belgium says it's master of interactivity, really.
I'd say that's probably true.
Right. What we've really tried to accomplish with Zebra is to give people who have expertise in some sort of specific topic, subject matter experts, the ability to start creating interactivity that is authentic to whatever topic or subject or thing that you need to teach learners without having to go through learning a programming language, but still have that flexibility. There are a lot of other tools out on the market, that's for sure, and a lot of them do really powerful things and make it easy to do a certain subset of things. But where we really hit home, I think, is the ability to create, authentic experiences at your own design, and not be really templated into, this is what you could do, and this is the expected output. With Zebra, it's really up to the author to generate and build those experiences, which in the end I think are more powerful. The closer you can get, whatever your subject matter is, and the interactivity on the screen closer to real life and simulate real life consequences, things do become more powerful.
Yeah, in fact, we've got a project coming up now for a large sheriff's department over here in Los Angeles, and it has to do with simulating all sorts of radio settings. And I'm thinking lots of knobs, lots of buttons. I was going, I've got to convince them that can we use this tool? Because they've got two other standards that they're using, and they're not going to be easy in those because they can't do the kind of state machine that this thing can do. ZebraZapps is much better at at the if I do this, 20 other things can happen.
Right, and then being able to keep track of them in a meaningful way. I mean, one of the things that makes building simulations, traditionally difficult is you got to simulate all the different permutations and consequences, and just building your own chart about what will happen if I do this, and what will happen if I do that, and what is it that I want to show. Just building the chart can be somewhat time consuming, but Zebra does that all visually. And really, I'd say it almost invites authors to be more complete and to really come up with consequences that do start to feel more like real life. And when you get into it, the experience that I've had teaching classes and showing people Zebra and just spending maybe even a day with them, the creativity once they spend that first hour with Zebra and just get accustomed to the interface, that next hour, the creativity really starts to pop, and they go, oh, I could do this or I could do that, because they're not constrained with tools that kind of predict what's going to happen next.
Right.
When you start grabbing from a tool palette that has very rigid and expected outcomes, when I use this tool, I know exactly what I'm going to get. Creativity kind of starts to shut off. And with Zebra, when you start connecting the dots and your creativity just really does pop, and that makes it fun, and it makes it fun to author. And I like to say, if you're not having fun creating learning material, no one is going to have fun taking your material.
Exactly.
That's so true. And it's interesting because you bring up a good point that in most authoring tools, what you're doing is working around the tool. So you're working around a lot of limitations, or so, okay, how do I get to do this? I've got to do a lot of workarounds. And I've noticed just in what I've done with ZebraZapps that you don't have to really work around it. You have to know how to get there, but there's really not a workaround. It pretty much does almost anything you need it to do. As far as learning curve for the average, I'm not sure who your average market are. You targeting instructional designers or more developer types? What would you say your target audience is? I would say,
if I was recruiting people, I would say I'm looking for people who have spent just a little bit of time. It doesn't need to be a long amount of time, but have some experience creating learning materials, and really felt like what they had created so far wasn't their best work.
Okay.
A lot of us find that when we start creating and building things, there are all sorts of constraints that come into play, whether it's time or budget, or just not having the know-how how to do something. And when you're finished with the project, you're wrapped up and you deliver it. And this is true for every project. You go, it would have been just a little bit better if I had been able to do this, or if I had included that, or if the challenge had been just a little bit more difficult, or if I'd had 2 more challenges, that sort of thing. People who find themselves in that boat, who know that they do good work, but also know that they could do much better work, that's our target market. People who really aspire to build those authentic learning experiences. They don't necessarily need to be the best at any tool, the best at any process.
Right.
They don't need to be an instructional designer or a hard-end programmer. But the flexibility that Zebra gives you and the speed that Zebra empowers people to build these things with really sets us up, I think, for people who have been yearning to do more, but just haven't been able to do it, whether it's time, budget, or tools.
Yeah, I noticed that in this last year, or I guess you were on in January, since you've been on, the product's a lot faster now. I could tell playing with it just about a week ago that it was definitely a lot zippier.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of work, and as we'll talk about later today, one of the new features that's dropping into our professional version allows you to essentially string together full applications, and we're really taking advantage of the cloud in ways that the cloud was really meant to be taken advantage of, in that we can stream applications and content so that wherever you are, if the course is, say, 10 hours long, Zebra's smart enough to just give you what you need at that moment, and to look a little bit ahead and say, you're going to need this in a few minutes, so I'll go ahead and load it now. And that gives us so much power, whether it's authoring or experiencing the content. For large organizations that always worry about this course has a lot of video, and everybody's going to hit it at the same amount of time.
Right.
Do we even have the internal bandwidth to play it? E-learning is really great when it caters to the individual and allows them to go at their own pace. So we've kind of done the same thing with Zebra in that we're trying to be smart enough with the technology and with the applications that authors build, so that as it's time for the learner to move to their next section, we're streaming just in time the stuff that they need, and the experience is pretty zippy. Now that portion you haven't seen yet, and we're still tweaking, which will drop with the professional version here shortly.
That's great. And
I have
go ahead, Dawn.
a few questions or items out there. One item that Leva brought up early in the conversation is a list of shortcuts. Is that something that's available, or anything you want to address with us, Chris?
Sure. I mean, the number of shortcuts is actually pretty long, and I know that
Just start now. We'll be here all day.
I know that we've talked about this kind of during the pre-show. There are a number of command keys that I'm realizing that A, I don't know, and B, I know that our users don't know, and it's really time to put those down on paper and expose them to everybody.
Yeah. Opportunity for a job aid cheat sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even a Zebra application that you could have running and teach you all the shortcuts.
It could be like Clippy back in the day. It could be a little zebra that comes on and tells you.
I hated Clippy.
I'm here with Microsoft people, and I brought up the Clippy, and they started laughing and said that's a bad word. They can't ever
Clippy.
refer to Clippy again.
I actually don't know anybody who liked Clippy.
Well, what about the little dog? That was an alternative.
Yeah, I guess. But Clippy, all I remember is there were a lot of expletives every time Clippy would show up. So it's
yeah. So another question is, I don't know how we'd address it here, but maybe you can give just a high-level overview. Is compare and contrast rapid intake with ZebraZapps. Some of the fabulous things that Zebra does.
Not even close. You know what? Can I butt in on that one?
Oh,
you go ahead.
Not even close. I mean, rapid intake is really more of a templatized PowerPoint kind of approach where you just fill in forms and that's it. That's it. You don't really get much more out of that. You can probably do some flash coding or something or action scripting, but that's really about what it would do, whereas ZebraZapps is a complete full-blown authoring system. I mean, a lot of power under the hood, so I would say there's not even a comparison.
All right.
So
Anything else
I've
you
made
want to
more
add to that,
enemies now,
Chris?
but that's okay.
Well, I think when you look at it, doesn't really matter what the tool is that's out there on the market. A lot of them have very specific use cases, or at least the output, no matter who the author is and what the content is pretty predictable in the format and the way that things end up and show up. I don't think you're going to find that with authors who create things in Zebra, no matter what the content is. I think you're going to find the experience very, very different and somewhat custom. Now, internally, there are some things that we're working on, and I'll show today, so that you can keep things consistent across your organization and build your own brand, and do things to not only aid you in the speed in creating things, but also keep some familiar format to your learners across 10 hours worth of content. But I think what we're going to find is that people use Zebra for more than just e-learning, and that there are a number of uses that I might have written down somewhere in some playbook about what we expect the market to do and use Zebra for, that don't even come close to e-learning, because there's so much utility, and what you can build is really up to you.
Great. Questions about SCORM? And actually, Leva's saying she's excited about the announced SCORM support. Looks very nice. What LMS standards will ZebraZapps Professional support? That's one of the questions coming in from Mark.
Yeah, sure. So the professional version is going to allow people to create a traditional SCORM package, and I believe we're going to have it in a couple of flavors. We're also keeping in close contact with CMI5 and what's going to be the next generation out of there. As well as I'm happy to say that we are participating and pretty active in the things that are happening with the Tin Can API. And at DevLearn, we're going to be showing much more of that. as well as probably making a few announcements about when we'll have tin can support.
Oh, good.
So lots of very exciting things that are coming up for people who are ready to start using Zebra for business cases, as well as tracking what learners do.
Another question. We have many questions today. I'm glad, because sometimes I sit here and twiddle my thumbs.
Well, what we should do, Dawn, is make this the last question.
Did you?
Dawn, let's make this. Hello, Dawn. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi. Let's make this the last question, and then let's have him jump into a little demo, and then we'll have some questions at the end.
Okay, sounds good. Testing with a ZebraZapps keyboard, I'll admit I don't know what that is, as opposed to a QWERTY, is often causing problems.
Oh, so, me neither. I don't use anything other than whatever the regular keyboard is, so I'll be happy to
I'm not even sure why
that on.
Yeah, why would you even want to use that other keyboard? That's just the A to Z keyboard, I think. It's not a typing keyboard per se, if I'm not wrong.
Sure. One of the things that I would note about our command keys, since Zebra is cloud-based and it does run through the browser, most of our key combinations are actually just a single key. So for things like copy and paste, it's just pressing C and just pressing B. To save is just pressing S. So I wouldn't expect that there would be too much that's difficult to do, regardless of what keyboard you're using. But I'll make sure our engineering team knows that there's something amiss with the alternate style of keyboard.
What she's saying is legitimate. She's saying in Europe they're still common. QWERTY keyboards are not really prevalent in Belgium, so Z doesn't always work as in N. So apparently the software thinks it's one key because that's what we're most accustomed to. I'm just kind of extrapolating here, and so the key commands behind the scenes are being translated differently.
Oh, I understand what you're saying now. I thought it was something else. Okay.
We'll take a look.
AZERTY.
Yep.
So we want to see the demo.
All right.
Roll the footage.
Okay, Chris, do you want me to run the video you sent?
Yeah, that would be great.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna. Hopefully the latency is good on his end. We've been good so far, so here we go. The video is launching right now.
Sure. So we're taking a short look here now at some of the new features, not all of them, which are coming up in the professional version of ZebraZapps. And for some context, I've built a sample application where the learner is tasked with responding to an in-flight medical emergency. And the first few screens are all about adding drama and immediacy in order to get people set up. And so here we are, a flight attendant having to respond to a passenger that seems to have passed out. And what I really wanted to build here in one of my first applications here, stressing the new version of ZebraZapps Professional, was building interactivity that really did feel authentic. So as we jump into the screen, we're seeing, okay, we've got some steps to take. I've also got an interactive coach here, who's the lady down in the corner, who, as we'll see later, is able to respond to the learner based on what of the correct steps they've done, and give some information about what's the earliest step you've missed. As we go through each one of these different actions that you can take, I think there are 5 that the learner needs to go through. It's not just, I need to do this first, I need to do this second, I need to do this third, but they're somewhat complex in that when you get to each step, you're quizzed a little bit further about how are you going to complete that step. And Zebra in the background is really paying attention to the order in which the student is going through each one of these steps, so making sure that their order is correct, but also making sure that beyond that, the second portion is correct. We're also, filling this up with distractors, so there's tons of ways that the learner could go wrong, and things that look like actually pretty good choices. Here we're taking a look at, we got to go retrieve the medical device, and there are a bunch of locations where it could be, and you got to run all around the plane in order to find it. But the distractors are there to really challenge the learner to think hard. The steps are easy enough. You need to evaluate the passenger, make an announcement, look for a medical professional, go retrieve the kit and then get the kit prepared for the medical professional. But there are things along the way that seem like really good options for you to do. You might even say, boy, I wish we could call the Mayo Clinic. They've really passed out. What do we do? But in this case, learning the steps and learning the procedure aren't just enough, because there are little intricacies that are important. As we move on and complete the interaction, because Zebra is paying attention to all the things that the learner has done, it gives us really ultimate control over what that feedback can look and feel like. In this case, I've got a bunch of paragraphs that talk about what the learner did do, because I know all the steps that they did do. So I can write little teasers or little scripts about what they've done. But I can also say, you just failed on all of these different points. In order to make all of this happen, in Zebra, we needed a big new feature, which we call event flow. And people who have been using Zebra for a while, this view is completely new. What we're looking at is a stack of events. You can almost think of them as a stack of applications that you can reorder. And the slider here is just moving back between all the different events that I have in my application. The wiring I have turned off, and in this demo I'm not going to show, but you can wire between events, so you can carry over variables, you can carry over consequences, and accumulate things throughout the course. But one of the cool things is you can just immediately start going, this content should go in front, this content should go in back, and rearrange it at your leisure. Master events, again, a new big feature inside Zebra. And you can do everything from creating background pages and start to template and stylize your application, but you can also build real interactivity like the coach I was talking about. So on our slider down at the bottom, I don't know how visible it is for everybody, but the slider is moving between gray cells and clear light cells, so black cells and gray cells, maybe that's a better description. And we can see all the different master pages that I have, which are over on the left in the gray area, and then the lighter gray area on the right, those are all my interactive events. And you can see that I've applied things like the coach and the red level up at the top and the background. And as you start rolling over that toolbar, you can see all the different types of events and master pages that I can apply. So I'm just kind of setting up one from scratch, taking the master pages that I already have styled, whether it's an interactive coach or it's just the background or it's just the company logo. I can apply those things to the event and then jump right in and then start creating my own content. So it could be anything from a complete quiz question to just some text about we're moving from stage 1 to stage 2, and here's what you need to be conscious of. But master pages make it really quick and easy to make sure that the look and feel is consistent throughout the application, as well as aid the author in that they can create some interactive templates and say, okay, we've gone through a series in this course already, now it's time to revisit either this portion of the application or this challenge, and we're going to carry things over. And master pages are the fastest way to do that in the new professional version of Zebra. And it's more than just a linear sequence as we're looking here with the slider, and it's events, since we can wire between them, it's really, really easy to make that branching dynamic. We're taking a quick look at how that coach was set up in one of the master pages. And here the coach has a number of different things that they could say, like, do you actually need advice from me? And then we can step through all the different hints that she can give based on what's currently been completed. So what page shows up when you click the coach is based on what steps you've done in the interaction. And this sort of template can be easily reused and reused. And then, of course, as we flip over to see the interaction and see where that coach is applied, you notice that any changes that I make inside the master page immediately show up in the event that is applied to. So I think about these master pages, everything from just background and things that make it really pretty, as well as templates that you can create that are either navigation or complete interactions or some sort of challenge that you want to carry over. And then one of the last features that I want to show this morning is we are cloud-based, and one of the most exciting things I think is the ability to collaborate with a larger team and share your work. So we have this cool new share panel where all you have to do is type in the email address of someone that you'd like to share your Zebra work with. They do need to be a Zebra user. So I verify that I'm in the system. That would be somebody else's name, so if I was going to send it to my dad or if I was going to send it to Scott or Steve, I'd put in their email address. And then I look from my list, which is over on the left. These are all my projects. They're not published yet. And I can say, you know what, I want to transfer these 2 projects over and confirm it. And then the next time that they would log in, on their home screen, there'd be this nice little button saying, someone wants to share a couple projects with you. Do you want them? And you can get a little more information about who it is, and if you want them, just go ahead and hit the accept button. So I wrote out a list of all the features that I know are coming into professional and that I really want to share with everybody, and we'd be here for 3 hours.
That looks really good. It looks pretty impressive in terms of what you've done, and yeah, so that's the professional. There's going to be another version, or is that enterprise, or? Yeah,
there are more tiers in Vision. The enterprise version is probably something that's a 2013 release, and it really refines collaboration in a lot of ways, so that you can set roles, as well as have people who are just reviewing content and leaving QA remarks or student experiences, and they'll be attached to those events, so that when the author comes back in and starts looking and saying, oh, you know what, there are 30 different comments here about event number 3, be able to run through them and find out where in the experience in event number 3 those comments were made, what they were made about, and then be able to jump in and make changes.
Good. Now, this reminded me a little bit when you were talking about the coach and everything. You had a product, I don't know if you guys still have it, called Dialogue Coach.
Yeah, it's we still do work on that sort of stuff, where people are set up to practice. One of the best uses is sales training, and making sales calls. I can think of times when Dialogue Coach was used for people who are making medical sales, where they had to get in front of a doctor and they only had 2 minutes to be effective. What you say in those 2 minutes are really, really important, and a lot like coming on an online show. If you're not really well prepared, you can sit there and kind of stumble, and then pretty soon everybody's off space. So Dialogue Coach was something that Allen Interactions built for allowing people to be able to practice and rehearse, then hear their own voice back, be able to share all those recordings with managers and people who are experts and get feedback. You can do some of that sort of stuff with an interactive coach. I hope that we'll be offering cloud-based recording services sometime in the future so that we can integrate voice. But certainly, the idea of having a coach while building and working inside interactive material as a learner is a nice way to allow someone to explore a topic without feeding them 35 content slides and then say, okay, then go ahead and do it.
Right.
A coach, when applied right inside an interactive model, gives you the ability to kind of lean back and say, I'm not quite ready to do this. What would an expert do? Or get a little bit of advice. You can take that one more step and say, I'm not quite sure what I would do. Have 4 different coaches along the bottom and have each coach give just a little bit different feedback on what the learner should do, and then task the learner with saying which set of advice was the right set of advice I should follow. So doing things like that inside of a learning interaction, which what I was trying to demonstrate with the sample app, I think frees designers up from saying, here's 4 hours of content, go ahead and view it. And then when you're done viewing that content, come back and we'll actually go through the interaction. Here, I'd much rather have my student jump in. Obviously, they're already an attendant and they've had some experience. I say jump right in, and then when you have trouble, go look for a little bit of advice. And of course, we can keep track of how many times they drop back to the coach, and if they rely on the coach to get them all the way through, we can say something like, hey, you haven't passed, or you need to try this scenario again, without the coach visible at all.
Yep, that sounds good. Hey, Dawn, now's a good time to kind of wrap up with any questions or.
Okay. So, cloud-based. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your audio was cutting out a little bit. Let's try again.
Okay. So one question was, is the professional version going to be purely cloud?
From the start, I imagine that it will be. There are some things in the work for multi-platform that we'll be talking about later this year, and probably that discussion starts at DevLearn, which is coming up here at the end of October. So that we've got delivery not only of your content straight from the cloud, but also delivery on multiple different environments and device types. When we start really rolling that sort of stuff out, we'll certainly be talking more about alternate solutions other than strictly straight from our cloud. But it gives us so many advantages, whether or not it's connecting to a tin can device or a learning record store, I should say, or saving and retrieving information. Because we're running all of our services through the cloud, we're empowered to save more and give authors more freedom to return pretty unique data back to their learners across all experiences. So tackling that challenge first was really, really important to us. The second challenge is to be able to give experiences somewhat like that to somewhat offline devices. But I would stay tuned because we've got lots of plans in the works for multiple delivery options.
Now, Chris, one question I've heard from people is, let's say they're using Articulate Storyline or Adobe Captivate or Trivantis, Lectora, and they want to take advantage of the advanced features of ZebraZapps for simulations or whatever else they may be doing.
Right.
Can ZebraZapps now be pulled out of the cloud, in other words, as a finished product, and embedded in any of those, or does it have to be web-based embedded?
It needs to be web-based embedded. Okay. All of those tools, as far as I know and the experience I've had with them, do have some sort of live web object where you can pull something in from the cloud. So if you've already got material built in one of those other tools and you'd like to augment it with something built inside Zebra, there isn't anything restricting you from doing that. Okay. But it still does need internet connectivity in order to pull it.
Okay, so that's where some of the questions are coming from. I know in my organization, cloud-based would work because of our firewalls.
Would work or would not work?
Would not. Much trouble with the crossing in and out.
Sure. You know, there's certainly lots of organizations who are having that conversation about everything. You know, about what is and what isn't they're going to take advantage of the cloud. I really do think that this is the direction a lot of people are going to head for their services, whether it's learning or not. And so I'm pretty proud to say that that's our first offering. But you know, there's lots of different solutions that we can look at for bigger organizations who essentially want to build their own cloud and have it staged at a physical location behind their firewall.
Yeah, and usually even with a firewall, if you know what ports are being opened, what ports are required, or if you have cross-domain capability, then it becomes a non-issue usually, more often than not.
It's right. For our dispersed locations where we'd have trouble.
Sure. I noticed another question. If I'll just take it, if that's all right. Someone's asking about making sure that constant internet connection is kind of a big deal. We've been working especially a lot with the professional version about how much actually can be cached and uploaded and continue to experience even if internet is lost for a little bit, and a little bit could stretch from 5 minutes to say an hour. And there are a number of things that you can do as long as you don't close your browser window. That if internet is just completely lost, you can still experience and do things inside Zebra, and then when that internet connection picks back up, things get fired back the way that they should. And that'll be something that we'll be continuing to solve with our mobile solutions. In fact, I think at ICE we started to talk a little bit about native iOS delivery of apps built inside Zebra. And with that, it does do some, a little bit of local caching. So let's say like the last 5 learning experiences that you did, they can be saved to your device even without the internet connection and be able to play. And then when you have internet again, you can send back off your results. So lots of cool problems to be solved, certainly for internet connection as well as mobile devices that are intermittent. But I'm really happy to say that we're in I think a fantastic place as far as solving those issues because of the cloud platform we've chosen from the get-go.
Good for you. Really.
Are there any more questions at this point?
I'm having echo issues, so carry on, Rick.
Carry on, okay. Well, Chris, you're going to be at DevLearn at the end of this month?
Yep, that's right. I was just looking at my schedule this morning, and I'm a lot of places between now and Halloween. I think Learning 3.0, which is in Chicago, near the end of this month, I'll be teaching a 1-hour hands-on with Zebra, hopefully showing a lot of the new things that we showed here today and giving people a chance to dig into Zebra and some of the important foundation concepts and get wet with their first app. And then we're teaching a 4-hour hands-on here in the Twin Cities at our local ASTD chapters event. And getting people signed up and ready to go and start building some pretty neat things in Zebra on their first day, first 4 hours of using the tool.
That sounds great.
And I think someplace else, but
busy weeks.
October's a long month.
Yeah, that sounds like it, but it sounds fun.
Yeah, I really do I really do love connecting with people who are using Zebra for the first time or had been using it for a couple months and come in all excited to either show off what they have done so far or have a question about, can Zebra really do this or do that? I love those questions. It's so much more fun for me when they bring their own question or challenge because, 100 out of 100, Zebra can solve it, and it's fun to start sketching it out and being able to show them the result or a prototype, within a comfortable conversation length, without their eyes rolling over and glazing over and going, yeah, I'll never be able to get that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Sounds like you'll be coming back too after you do some announcing later this month.
Yeah, I hope so. This is a really fun format, and I love talking to you both.
Oh, this is great. And I'll see you at DevLearn. I'll definitely going to be there. Dawn, I'm not sure. Are you going or not?
No, I didn't get to go to that.
You did presentation this year.
Yep. But you'll see Leva there.
Leva will be there. So you'll probably see her she's going to be giving a whole mess of talks at DevLearn. I think she's also at the Adobe Learning Summit.
Yeah, absolutely. I really
it's kind of all Leva all the time for a day or two.
Yeah.
I really do love the eLearning Guild's events. There's a great audience that attends. They all have, very cool real-world challenges and things that they're trying to do inside their organization, and the conversations are fantastic. So for anybody who hasn't attended DevLearn or any of the other Guild events, I would highly recommend it.
And next week, we've got your dad coming. He wants to figure out why you're having so much fun here, so he's coming on to actually find out what's going on.
I think he wants to know why I'm having so much fun at work, too.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That's the beauty of when you enjoy what you do, it's not work.
Oh, yeah, that's
right.
true.
It's a lot of fun. And of course, you're an Iron Man, so therefore, whenever you're tired of work, you just go work out a bit, you forget all about it, you go back to work if you're feeling good again. Endorphins.
It's a wonderful recommendation that I could give to anybody who finds themselves in front of a computer for 10 hours. Just totally unplug and find a sport that you enjoy, because whether it's biking, running, or swimming, in the right order, all of those have so many powerful benefits to get away from.
And it's balancing. It's balancing.
It is really balancing.
Mm-hmm. All the way, yeah. And in my case, it's been martial arts forever. And, come home, I do at least a half hour every day, if not longer. And just that felt good. You have to.
You do.
You have to. But that'll be good. Yeah, next week we've got Dr. Michael Allen. He'll be on. He's going to talk about his new book, From Addie to Sam. So that should be fun. And I look forward to seeing both. Is he going to DevLearn as well?
Yeah, he'll be there, and we'll be talking about both the book Leaving Addie for Sam, as well as all the new things that are happening inside Zebra. I imagine that if you go and attend one of his talks or anybody else from Allen Interactions, that you'll find that the presentation is supported inside with Zebra itself. So connecting the two together, that discussion, I think you'll have a good time, and if you'll find that anybody asking questions about leaving process for a different process, the questions and the discussions will get pretty heated pretty quick.
Lively.
No, that sounds great. And again, if you've joined us late, we've been with Christopher Allen. Chris is with Allen Interactions and ZebraZapps. So he will be at DevLearn, among other places, in the next couple weeks. So you can look forward to seeing him there. And if you do go, please drop by their booth, and you'll get a lot of good information on the product, as well as go to some of their events and get familiar with the product. I think you'll enjoy ZebraZapps quite a bit. Well, Chris, as always, a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to have been back, and this was a fun conversation.
That's great. And Dawn, hope to see you home next week.
Yep, I'll be home next week.
That sounds great.
Fun.
Well, enjoy
Fun at the conference.
Yep, enjoy the conference right there. And for everyone in the chat room, thanks for being there live. And if you're watching the recording, please subscribe on YouTube. So we will see you soon on eLearnChat. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.